Welcome. It's episode 4 of Powered 4 TV Big Fight Weekly with myself, Stewart Palmer, and my co-host, my cousin, Chris Hume. And we're going to give you a deep dive in boxing and UFC and MMA this week again. God, I couldn't get my words out then, could I? Christ alive. You know. And I just want to say, before we get into it, this episode is in memory of Boxing Hall of Famer, the late, great, marvellous Marvin Haglin, who was passed away this past week at age 66. A legend of the fight game. He eclipsed the sport in general, pop culture. Everyone knew who this guy was. And a lot of guys were influenced getting into boxing and even MMA off the back of what this guy did in the ring. So we will be back to Marvin Haglin in a bit. We're going to do a little feature piece on that. But first and foremost, the big story which broke yesterday. Joshua and Fury is signed for a 2-fight deal. Finally, Chris, we've got the match. This is what everyone on the UK circuit's been craving. I think a lot of the Americans too, after Wilder got dusted over 2 fights. What are your thoughts on it?
When it got announced, it's who's going to win, isn't it? I think that's the big one. Who's the one that's going to be having all the titles at the end of this fight? Or the 2 fights? Would you say possibly 3 maybe, if it's one apiece?
Are they thinking something we're not thinking? Booking it for 2, thinking it will be over. Into but a 3rd fight. Wilder's camp were clamouring for a 3rd fight with Fury, weren't they? So yeah, it's can't wait for that. Hopefully, I'm hoping they can do it at Wembley, and even if they could do it at half capacity. But the Saudis do flash a lot of money around as well, don't they? They can put more money into it again. It'll be interesting to see where the fight takes place. What are your thoughts? So who do you think out the 2 of them? Who would you hedge your bets on out the 2?
I probably going off Tyson's last fight to Joshua's, even though Joshua looked good. I just think Tyson's just too fast, and he can get past. If I get my words out, he can elude the power strikes that Joshua can throw at him. I know he got caught by Deontay Wilder, but he took that, and as everyone says, he rose like the Undertaker in that fight, didn't he? I think he can. He's too quick, and I think he's hitting with power himself now. As you saw in the last fight against Wilder. It's going to be a lot of people are going to be like that, aren't they? When it comes to them 2 fighting, which is interesting.
It's the biggest fight. And I'll say it now. It's the biggest. It's going to be the biggest domestic fight in history, I think. And it's what boxing's needed. These 2 have been the thoroughbreds throughout boxing. It's a pleasure, that they're both from the UK as well. But the Americans are fond of them as well. But I just can't wait, man. I just hope we get it at Wembley. It's got to be done at Wembley in some shape or form. But I just think who's going to be America, Vegas. They've got the arenas for it, but a big stadium surely for that one. Absolutely.
Hey, you could always go on UFC 4 and fight as Joshua and Fury on that.
Can you?
You can do that if you wanted.
Thank you for the comments. We're going to have a section with all your comments later. We will address everything that you've brought in, just so you know what's happening, because we've got quite a bit to get through. And I think I've obviously spoken about the death of marvellous Marvin Haglin. I think that's a perfect way to segue into that. Sad news this week. An absolute legend at middleweight. Fought all the best. Roberto Duran fought him. Tommy Hearns, which was an absolute ballbuster of a fight. I remember my dad talking about Hagler when I was a kid. Obviously, he'd retired by the time we were born, Chris, but my dad always spoke fondly of Marvin Hagler and what he could do. It was just, he even fought Alan Minter in the UK. He came to Wembley Arena, beat Alan Minter for the world title. 63 wins and 3 losses, and he avenged 2 of those losses. The only other loss was his last fight against Sugar Ray Leonard. Not a bad loss to take against another legend in boxing. No. But I did like what he said. He said when he landed an uppercut on Leonard said he lifted off his feet the power and the ferociousness with the shot. But we've been watching old fights of Marvin Hagler's, and what do you take away from his style and how he was in the ring?
It's just a quote Roberto Martinez. Phenomenal. He was incredible, and you could see he was hardened, wasn't he? And he had power shots to just put people down. I watched the Sugar Ray last 1 week before we came on. I watched the Sugar Ray Leonard one. There was just back and forward, wasn't it? incredible athlete. You know what I mean? You can see why certain fighters and MMA fighters, journalists, all look up to someone like him. He put it all on the line. And to have 63-3 and hold the title, from 1980 to 1987. You tell me who can do that now.
You were impressed with that, weren't you? A 7-year reign with the title. It's just... I wrongly said that boxing wasn't great in the 80s of the week, but what I meant was it was the heavyweight division when we were talking about Bruno and Tyson. They were just waiting for them to come through the big heavyweights, weren't they? There was a bit of an off period, people were getting older, but at middleweight, and I think he was given the boxer of the decade in the 80s, Marvin Haglin as well, and he's won various awards, Ring Magazine Award, other boxing publications have had him as the fighter of the year, fighter of all time. He went into the Boxing Hall of Fame as well in 1993, 6 years after retirement, but just... You even had comments that you've seen from Chael Sonnen from UFC, just saying how he eclipsed the sport of boxing, went into the mainstream. But yeah, what was Chael Sonnen saying about him?
He was saying that he owes everything to Marvin Hagler, just the way he put himself about. Like I said before, a never say die attitude. You know what I mean? And you look at Chael Sonnen and how he did his career, he kept on going no matter the losses. And I think people like him who put it all on the line is inspirational, isn't it? No matter if you lose, you can still pick up and still, hammer and ton your way through the divisions.
He boxed at amateur to a very high level, had a lot of fights. I was reading as well. He was a very, didn't he? Yeah, he's a very good amateur. Which it does. Sometimes guys go straight into professional ranks, don't they? But a lot of these guys have had a big amateur career. They were saying about purses and what he was getting initially early on in his career, and other fighters getting more money than him. So he felt like he had something to prove. And he did it all. He did it all, man. It was just such sad news. 66 is no age to go, really. It was just these things happen.
Isn't it?
They come out of nowhere, man. But he'll be held in the annals of time forever and ever for what he did for boxing. And, so many guys have been inspired by him to get in there and do it. I know a lot of the UK-based fighters have come out and said about him. Even on commentary at the UFC over the weekend, Daniel Cormier and Bisping was speaking very fondly about him. So it was nice. It's nice to have the crossover sometimes with that. I think moving on, and RIP to Marvin Hagler result. Moving on, we are going to preview. It's the big one at Wembley Arena on Saturday. It's Lawrence OColey fighting Glovacki for the vacant WBO cruiserweight title this Saturday night. Now, Glovacki has been a 2-time WBO champion already, and his 2 losses have come to the great Alexander Usyk, who's gone up to heavyweight, dominated the division. That's not a bad loss when you've lost to Usyk. He dominated at cruiser. I know he's at heavyweight now, and also fought Bradis in the World Series of Boxing at the semi-finals for the WBO cruiser title. Lost that as well. Not a bad thing. This is a big step up for Lawrence OColey. I'm chuffed for Lawrence OColey. He's building up to this. He's probably the underdog, just going off who Glovacki has fought previously. But this is the step up he needed. I've watched him right the way through since he's broken in with Matchroom, and I think this is a big step up for him. Hopefully he can get it over the line, get this title. It's the vacant WBO title as well. Big prize at stake. What are your thoughts, Chris?
I was going to ask, because I was watching a lot of stuff on Lawrence. I'm not going to pronounce his name because I'll get it wrong. He looked like he's gone in from, is it the Olympics?
Yeah, he was in Rio. He was in Rio. He fought at heavyweight, but obviously the way the weight classes are there, Joshua was at super heavyweight. It's
right,
what I mean. They class it as bigger, but yeah, he was at heavyweight at Rio. Yes.
And he's won titles in most of the divisions he's been in. I'm assuming, lower down. Or was it in his amateur or after the Olympics? I was going to ask you, seeing as he's done all this and he's gone through divisions since the Olympics and done really well, could he be a victim of his own success into this fight? Because
I think personally it's what he's needed, because he's been beating people left and right. I think of the 16 wins, he's had 13 stoppages. So he needs this now, but I think he can get it over the line. Okay, there's no fans in attendance, but he's on home soil. He's at the fantastic Wembley Arena. So many good nights for boxing in there, among other sports. I think it's all for him. He needs it. He's come up from European level. He's ready. He's ready for the world he's ready for the elite level at cruiser. Absolutely. He's big. He's a big guy as well.
I noticed.
He's big for the weight. I don't know whether he'll end up transitioning into heavyweight. He's got all the credentials, but as I say, Glovacki's no slouch. He's
an experienced fighter, isn't he? Yeah.
He's been the champion twice. He's only lost the 2, and he was up against two of the best. Bradis is Latvian actually. Good fighter. So yeah, this is what we want as fans, Chris. This is the big step up, and I'm looking forward to Saturday night. It's good to have some boxing on, and it's good to have some UK boxing because it's been a bit quiet, as we've said over the previous weeks. So yeah. That's the boxing for now. And we're going to now go into the UFC. We're going to transition into Saturday night, Sunday morning's card for us. And it was Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. Ends in a no contest after an eye poke. What is it with these stoppages? No contest, Chris. It seems to be the way it's going in the cage at the moment.
Just look at that picture.
That just speaks 1,000 words to me. But what do you take away from it? I'd read the reports afterwards. I did watch the fight. Leon was in control. I know he's not been in the cage for a very long time. It's been a lengthy layoff. So what do you take away from it with Leon Edwards in there and the subsequent eye poke, which led to a no contest?
Yeah, an accidental eye poke. There was nothing purposely done with that. I mean, we'll get to that part anyway. But I thought he looked fantastic. He was on point. He was he was fast. He was elusive. It caught but Holland in the first round with a hell of a good head kick. I mean, if you saw it, he got caught in the back and cut the back of the side of his head. He was, he was on top of Belal and made Belal work. And I was quite astonished and I was shocked. He's been out for 18 months. I didn't think he'd be as fast, but he was on his game. It's hard to decipher so much out of the fight because we got, a round and a half? So it would have been interesting to see what Leon would have looked in a further rounds afterwards. But I felt what I've seen prior to the eye poke, I think he was in complete control. Belal did have his moments, and he had moments. He hit him with a couple of straight jabs, and then he held up Leon Edwards against the cage for about 30 seconds, didn't he? But I thought Leon Edwards looked impressive for the amount of time he's been off and the amount of minutes he had in the octagon.
Thing I like about Leon Edwards, Chris, that fabled thing that the UK we can only strike, and he's good at striking, but he can do a bit of everything. He can get you to the ground, can't he? Yeah. He's solid, and obviously they're surely gonna have a rematch, aren't they? Or do you think they'll just book him in with somebody else? Get him at that rank,
It's hard to say, right? Because if you look at the eye poke, absolutely accidental. He used his hand to hide the body kick that he was coming in with. And unfortunately, I think Belal's moved him forward. But if you can look at the picture right in front of you now, you can actually see his hand is closed to a point. So he is trying to avoid the eye poke. But I think Belal's momentum's come too close when he's gone for the body kick and when he's trying to mask it. And obviously that finger, this has gone straight into the eyelid, which is really unfortunate. And it looked terrible, looked awful. I feel sorry for Leon as well as Belal because that's a 7-win streak now snapped. Is a no contest.
What was the feeling afterwards? What have the fighters come out and said off the back of it? What did you take away from what they were saying? Your perception?
There's a lot of tit for tat now, isn't there? I don't know if you've seen Twitter and Belal after Leon Edwards' post-fight conference. He doesn't think he needs the rematch. Which you can probably you could go either way, saying, the way that Leon Edwards looked in the fight looked to me that he probably would have finished or, completely controlled the next 3 rounds against Belal. Belal's not happy about that and said, I put it all on the line. I thought it was a few weeks back and, I've stepped up, and you should fight me next. For Leon Edwards, I don't think really that fight should be run again because I just don't think he was in the same league as Leon Edwards, and I'm sorry, Belal, but you weren't. See now, Leon Edwards, I couldn't say he's wanted a title shot after that because you haven't seen him in the octagon long enough. Maybe a Stephen Thompson match, maybe just before, just after Usman and Masvidal fight in April. I
think I'd love him to get in there with Masvidal, but obviously. what we're going to speak about later. We've had developments on cards. That won't be happening for a while because something's been booked, which we will allude to later. But what for Belal Muhammad? Where do you see him going off the back of it?
It's hard to say, isn't it? Because you got to give him props for going in. Not many people probably would want to take that fight against Leon Edwards. You're looking where he's going back again, isn't he? Down the line of welterweight. I didn't really look to see who he should fight next, but he's probably in the middle between somebody say 15 to 10. He's going to have to break. He's not in the top 10 now, so he's going to have to find someone to break in. I can't see on Leon Edwards taking a rematch with him.
He's 18-3 as well. I noticed they had the same record, so he's amassed that's a decent record, isn't it? I'm not sure what his UFC record is, but he seems a good fighter. Like, but as you say, Edwards, it's onwards and upwards for Edwards, isn't it?
It's a tier above.
Unfortunately for Muhammad, do you know what I mean? But that's I look forward to what they do with Mr. Edwards going forward for us. We love our UK fighters. We want them to do fantastic, and they've upped their game. They've upped their game in terms of training and all that. From where it was.
Wrestling is the aspect here.
We've got, you look at those rankings across the board. There's a lot of UK guys in amongst the rankings, so we look forward to that.
They're coming up.
Keeping with the UK vibe, and we're reviewing UFC Fight Night from Saturday, Sunday morning here in the UK. Oh man, Davy Grant topples Martinez with a vicious strike. And he's now on a 3-fight win streak after being 1-3 prior to his 3-fight win streak. What a vicious knockout that was. But Martinez, you know what made me laugh, Chris? Martinez landed a strike to his forehead. And sometimes it's like, how the hell, you see it a lot, don't you, where the other fighter lands one, but the other guy knocks him out. It was just like quite a good shot, but he was going backwards by that time.
Well, if you want to picture that, just think of when McGregor knocked out Aldo. He still got clipped.
He got. I'm sure it hurt him a little bit, but fantastic. Fantastic for Davy Grant, who wasn't known for striking previous, and I know his career's been a bit stop-start because he's had fights from 2013, the Ultimate Fighter final, and then there was quite a significant gap. You said he was a restaurateur, he'd set up a business, so that I didn't know that until you told me this, but quite a lengthy time out of the game when you think he's only had 7 fights total in the UFC over that time. But hopefully now we're going to get to see him more. But you tell me there's an injury off the back of this as well.
Well, did you not see his post-fight after the?
I only watched the fight.
His foot was ballooned, and he said to, if it was Daniel Cormier, that though they obviously looked like the camera went down onto his foot, and it was obviously like a balloon, and he's like, it's broken. It was massive, and it was. I mean, you could tell that straight away when you looked at it. It looked broken.
How long have they not set a time frame for him coming back in?
No, it didn't say where it was broken because it could have been a metatarsal, couldn't it? No, it's a small fighter per se, so you're not really going to get much, information unless you go and find him on Twitter or Instagram, Facebook, and you'll probably be able to tell you from there.
It's a shame that because he'll want to be staying active, man. He'll want to be right in the hunt for it, and he's ranked in the 30s, isn't he, on the extended rankings that you can get when you go on the certain websites. But again, I'm going to ask you. I know I always like to ask you about matches and what matches would be good and styles made fights. Who would be a feasible one for when he returns from the injury? Who would you like to see Davy Grant get in there? What would be a feasible fight?
Right, so Davy Grant's ranked 32. Only, I think, 7 short from Nathaniel Wood, actually. But we're not going to have 2 UK fighters fight against together. We don't like that. We're too biased. I've got a good one, and he's a rank above Davy Grant. So I think Davy Grant's going to take it easy from there. He's not going to jump, unless a fight's there to be taken. But this fight, it's an interesting one because you'll know the second name, Umar Nurmagomedov.
Khabib's brother.
Aha!
Oh my days! That's not. You'd be leading to believe he's going to get absolutely leveled on the ground there, wouldn't you?
He's only had 1 fight, Umar, in the UFC.
How did that go?
He won.
Convincingly. Took him down. I was going to say he didn't win by strikes. Just to buck the trend.
No. He just did what an Nurmagomedov fighter does: take you down, smash you up. That's who's above him. He has got someone else above him, Timur Valiev, but that's 2 places above. So I don't know if they're going to do a fight. If you're jumping one over. It's an interesting fight, and it's a name. If you can win, it's a big name to take off. You know what I mean?
He's on that 3-fight win streak. I was surprised, man, because I remember him. I remember in that first run, you split his run up because it's been so lengthy with so little fights. But he's doing well. If he can get into the top 20, but there are fights that you're bringing up there which will be very, very tough for him. But that's it. It's about maybe sink or swim a little bit. He needs to step up in class if he's on a 3-fight streak.
Of course he does. So I want to say about his style in this fight because it was crazy.
Why has he changed it? But obviously, it's evident why he's changed it. One and three, and the previous fight went the same way, didn't it?
I don't think his last 3 fight losses, he wasn't outclassed per se. He got submitted and then
close.
Yeah, he was in there. He's not got a bad ground game. It's dangerous Davey Grant. But this fight, it was just wild, and it was like, I'll throw one and I'll take one. Of course, he got dropped in the first round, didn't he? Just before the end of the first round. I think that woke him up a bit. Well, I thought it did. And then just got back up, got into the next round and just pressured Martinez. I don't think Martinez liked that pressure because he started to connect. And then obviously the finishing blow is the 1-2, wasn't it? He went to the body, they went over with the right hook and caught him flush. I was impressed. I think that's probably when you're stepping up against bigger fighters and better strikers, that's probably not the way to stop throwing against the better ones, but it's good for him.
That sound well surmised there, Chris. This is what I like, getting the in depth where he can go next, what his route will be. I think now's the perfect time to go to break and see what Powered 4 TV has got on offer on demand.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Millie McKenzie! She is at least 5 sandwiches short of a picnic. Casey Owen! Casey
Fantastic array there of some of the best wrestling promotions in the UK, in the US. Please try Powered 4 TV on demand. And you've got podcasts as well. I implore you to sign up. It's a superb service. You get so much for your money. Back into Sunday mornings, Saturday evenings action. Another no contest.
Another legal knee.
Illegal knee. Eric Anders versus Darren Stewart, another UK fighter. We've got to cover it because it's UK. But Chris, how can this be a no contest when the other week it's Aljamain Sterling wins the belt and he's the recipient of a knee? It's gone off the referee's perspective of the knee. This is what I've been reading. What is going on? Why are they doing this? They know the rules. They know they're not in Pride.
Oh. In Pride, he would have been put to sleep with a kick to the face, not a knee.
But they should know what they're doing. They train day in, day out, and leading up to this. They know the rules. What's going on?
Well, they go through the rules before the fight.
It's just, it's the mind boggles, man. But I think Darren Stewart was nearly out anyway. He was bent over. There was punches coming in. I was like, why hasn't Herb Dean stopped it? He was losing. He was. Eric Anders was on for the win, and then he's put an illegal knee in and done all his hard work. Do you think it should? Do you think it should have been stopped? Because there was just nothing coming back. He was crouched over and he's peppering him. There was nothing coming back before that knee. I didn't understand it, man.
He's called the dentist, isn't he, Darren Stewart? What a shit one at that is. He looked awful. And Darren Stewart's fought he's fought Kevin Holland. as Darren Stewart. He's gone to split with Kevin Holland, who
you're very high on him. Yeah, he's one of your ones to watch.
He didn't look interested in this fight, and Anders been there with Machida. Anders has fought some tough guys. He just looked in complete control, and I think Darren Stewart was just recklessly throwing punches, wasn't he? And getting caught. Yeah, that knee. I have strike with that knee because I don't think it was as hard as Aljamain Sterling's. Aljamain got it, and he got up, and I just felt like you could probably carry on fighting here. And I thought you're using this, to get out the fight because you're losing it. And
I thought it might have carried on at one point. I was thinking
he was out.
So what next for him now? Because Eric Anders will be onwards and upwards surely off the back of this. Darren Stewart's not going to want to get back in with him if he didn't want to carry on the fight on Sunday morning.
I suppose I'd run it back. Purposely run it back because I think Stewart could have fought again. Carried on fighting there. I don't think he was out, and he used that to get out the fight, and and then not have a loss on his record. And this is probably the first you see me bash an English fighter. There'll be many, obviously, down the line, but yeah, I wasn't impressed because I think he was tapped. It wasn't that hard of a knee, and I know someone will go to me and go, "Have you taken a knee in the clinch on your floors?" No, I haven't, but I've seen a difference in a different fight, and that knee wasn't anywhere near.
Fan perspective, Chris, this is me. And I'm thinking of other fighters watching that, thinking that could have been my chance. Darren Stewart's just wilted. He didn't want to carry on. And, there's going to be fighters out there that want to take Eric Anders on. They'd be jumping at the chance to get in the UFC. It's just like the commitment, from what you're saying, there's just no commitment on Darren Stewart's end. But there's guys chomping at the bit to get a bite of the cherry in UFC, man. It's the premier, brand promotion. Yeah. Why? You mean it's not a good look? It's not a good look for him, surely.
Because I don't think Eric Anders is a world beater.
No. It was a step up for him, but there's other guys that could lay waste.
I don't understand his game plan in that whatsoever. Because they're both big guys, but yeah, I'd run it back. Definitely run it back because that legal knee was. It was. That wouldn't warrant me to call it a no contest. I would have called it before, called the fight before it.
Rather than me now saying who for Eric Anders next, because I've done that with several of tonight's talking points topics. We've got to get into the news which has dropped. UFC 261. It's Usman Masvidal 2 for the welterweight championship. There's two pieces of information with this. Obviously, the fight being announced. But there's been question marks with Dana White saying that the Jacksonville Arena will be at full capacity for this event. Now, what we're taking away, I think first and foremost talk about this because it's the rematch, then we'll address this full capacity at the arena because it's caused a lot of mumblings and grumblings amongst the socials, which I've noticed.
Yeah, I've seen. It's a fight that nobody wanted. You find me someone that wants to see this fight. I will bet you money. Actually, anyone who's watching, I'll bet you money. Usman gets Masvidal out of this fight quicker.
To make a point that why am I in there with him again? So I'll just.
I don't see how Masvidal warrants the fight. I do not understand. He hasn't fought since the last fight.
The only way I'd be looking at it promoting wise would be because Masvidal can sell a fight with his, he's fantastic, but he's been beaten by him already. But he can talk. He's a total package. He's done very well in more recent years in his career. But as you say, it's only going to go one way, isn't it? Surely
he's done very well. But
he's fantastic.
Well. He's not done well against a good wrestler. And Usman is a good wrestler who is, remember now against Gilbert Burns, who we broke it down last week, has got better at the striking. I can't see it going any other way.
Why didn't they get Colby Covington versus Masvidal? That would have been.
Yeah.
That's gonna take money. It's been very quiet on the Covington front for such a loudmouth and someone's.
He's popped up. He popped up the other day.
And what was he?
Complaining about Leon Edwards.
Maybe make that fight there's plenty, you know.
Yeah, they're free.
This is perfect. If you're Sean Shelby and Dana White, if we're coming up with this just as fans,
Don't forget Nick Maynard as well.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I always just say about Sean Shelby and Dana with the matchmaking. Get Joe Silver back.
No, get him away. No one liked him anyway.
No, but going back to what you were saying, just to come to your point, it's going to be utter domination, but in quick fashion from Usman. You foresee with this one.
He called for this fight. He asked for this fight, and I mean, I'd say okay because you've beaten everybody other than Thompson and Edwards. That's a rematch for pretty much everyone, isn't it? Yeah, he wants it. He gets it because he's earned it. He's earned the right to call his shots now. I think he's going to go there and prove a point, but I just don't see the point. It's not a fight anyone does. And as I said to you the other week, who has Masvidal beaten other than Nate Diaz?
And this, I'm just going to say about this. It was all just like a one-off thing. The BMF title. What was the point? What was the point of having that BMF title? I know. It was always going to be a one-off. You know, I don't understand. There's enough belts going around. It was just like give him a plaque. Give him a plaque supporter beating Nate. You didn't need to give him a belt, surely, because they've done nothing with it.
No.
Just come up with one-off matches all the time and make a belt, then, isn't it? You know,
we can easily do that if you want.
And no disrespect to the both of them, because they sold the fight amazing. It did good buy rates. It was a success. They can both trash talk beforehand as well. You know, and they did all the stuff, didn't they? They went over to New York to do press. They did press all over the place. But yeah,
you had the Rock as well. Don't forget.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Who does Usman face next after this, Chris?
I'd love to say Leon Edwards, but Leon Edwards is now going to have to get another fight in, isn't he? After this,
yeah.
Unless they can find him something short notice,
which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because he's going to have this fight, and then they can do it maybe at the back end of the year into like September, October. Yeah, December. December's always a big month, isn't it? Leading into the new year, so there's plenty of fight options, man. Absolutely looking forward to that one.
It's up to him, isn't it? I think at this point, Usman calls the shots. Like I said, I'd like to see Leon Edwards get in there. So Leon Edwards is going to have to get a good fight after or before these two fight, which is probably difficult now considering, you know, what's April 26th when these two, you know, fight. So if you can get a fight in there, you always got Stephen Thompson, haven't you, who's free there. Kobe Covington, I think that'd be even bigger than Masvidal.
It's the mix of styles in that division, man. You can get so many different outcomes and, you know, different fights, and it'll just make it different, isn't it? You don't have to have the same fight time and time again.
Fun fact.
Go on, fire away.
These two are supposed to be the tough coaches until they called an audible.
Why?
Because this fight is more what would sell more if they do it now.
I suppose in the current climate, yeah, they've had to do something big, and then I think because we haven't spoken about it, just because we've covered this quite a length now. This full arena in June is crazy, and I know Florida have ran events right the way through, you know, no one in capacity, then gradually you've had X amount of people in. Look, the boxing the other week, Canelo, there was 15,000 in an outdoor NFL stadium which holds nearly 70,000 people. So how can they have it? It's indoor, number one. How can you fill an arena? I'd understand it if they booked an outdoor stadium, a bigger venue, and said, look, we can do 30 to 50% capacity. What your thoughts on that? Because people are going absolutely crazy about it. You know, it's kind of took away from the fight being announced. No one cares for the fight anyway. The other two fights on the card, I'd say, are equally more interesting. Now we spoke about this last week. So yeah, tell the viewers, man.
They got Shevchenko versus Andrade, and you've got Wei Liang versus Rose Namajunas, and they're two excellent fights. We'll go back to the whole fans thing. Listen, I think people are going to get pissy no matter what you do now.
Yeah,
fans are coming in now.
They've obviously had clearance from the officials in Florida to do this, and you know the numbers that they're probably foreseeing that, you know, the vaccine levels and stuff like that now, where, you know, 3 months down the track it could be safer there, and you know they've always got the climate there as well. Numbers haven't been as bad. You know, it's the weather, isn't it? They haven't had the cold weather. It all makes makes sense. Texas were having events on as well. They maybe could have gone to Texas again if they.
They did try.
Yeah. And then they had all that bad weather and all that. Everything was shut down. But yeah, I think now, mate, is perfect time to preview this weekend's UFC Fight Night. Go on.
There's no breaking news yesterday, just before we go.
Yeah, go on.
Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler's fight is in the works.
Good.
Just want to see what you think about that.
I'm happy, and Michael Chandler should have come over years ago. Because
he was a champion in Bellator. So
yeah, I know, but it's just you're not getting the caliber. And I know a lot of guys have come over and done well. Have come into UFC afterwards and done fairly well. But I've wanted him over for years, Michael Chandler. But what a fight that's going to be.
Big fight.
Gaethje's fantastic. It's only the loss to Khabib on it. So
you got Conor, Dustin, Gaethje, Chandler. There's one person here. There's no dancing partner.
Go on.
Charles Oliveira. Who's he going? What's he going to do now?
Who do you think he'll get?
There's nobody. Well, Tony Ferguson's booked up now, isn't he? He's beaten Tony Ferguson, but there's nobody in that top 5 really, because they're all now matched up. He was offered by Nate Diaz for a fight, and he turned that down. That would have been big for him. So we can move on now.
It's going to be good. No, you've always got the information there. I like that. No, that's good. It's good to see what's going to be coming, and that's a huge fight. But yes, this Saturday, Sunday morning for us in the UK, it is Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson against one of Chris's top 3 ones to watch. Previous week's show when we spoke about Kevin Holland, we actually missed Kevin Holland off, and had to do it the following week because I jumped to another segment. But yeah, Derek Brunson versus Kevin Holland at middleweight, big fight. Both guys, high in the middleweight division in the rankings. So your man Kevin Holland, I can only see you going one way with this. It's got to be a Kevin Holland victory for Chris Hume.
I've gone with Kevin Holland by TKO in the early. Say 1 to 3 rounds.
As we've said about Brunson, though, Chris, he's fought a lot of people over the years. He's well schooled, so it won't be easy. We have touched upon this, haven't we, previously about this fight? Yeah.
Well, I don't. Well, yeah, I think you can answer this. Do you think Derek Brunson is the best gatekeeper in the UFC?
He's fought a lot. He's fought a lot of the people in the top, the higher echelons of the rankings, hasn't he? Yeah, never shirks a fight. I think that's got a lot of credence, mate. I think that's got a lot of credence. Yeah, you could say that because he's fought all the top guys.
Yeah, he has. He's gone. Romero's, Izzy's, Anderson Silva. Andy should have beaten Anderson Silva. I think that judgment that was a bit wrong. He's on a 3-fight winning streak. Eddie Shabazian, he beat. Was it last year? Who was highly touted.
I was going to say about Shabazian. They're always saying, you always hear about the fighters, that the guys analysing that he's a great fighter. He's got good potential. So yeah, that's a good point. Where do you see this fight going? Can it be stopped early, or are we going to have the full 5 rounds?
No,
it won't go 5 rounds.
And I've got all my picks wrong since we've done this. So,
well, do you not think? Will Brunson be able to stifle him a little bit, therefore make the fight go a bit longer than it maybe could do with his old school head, and he's fought a lot of times, his veteran head. And
since he's dyed his hair blonde, he hasn't lost a fight. Just thought I'd put
that's a good luck charm if ever there was one. Then,
yeah, he can. Kevin Holland had a weirdly difficult fight against Darren Stewart, a few fights back, which I was confused because Kevin Holland is a far better fighter than Darren Stewart, as you saw with him against Anders on the weekend. No, he could stifle him. He could force him to grapple. But then you saw what Jacare Souza tried to do when he tried to force Kevin Holland to grappling, and he took him down and on his knees knocked him out. Derek Brunson's a very good gatekeeper, and if you are going to break into that elite in the middleweight, you have to beat Derek Brunson, and he keeps coming, and he does beat people off. He hasn't gone away. I'll go Kevin Holland. It's a safe bet.
Can I just segue into it as well, man? I think I've got to be fair to the UFC. They've been putting together some fantastic cards. I know we've not had the fans in. But they've done it. I think they've done a great job on the whole. I think especially with these Vegas cards. I know Abu Dhabi was a bit more central, so we had a lot more European fighters. I know we've had European fighters on in Vegas as well, but it was obviously easier to get people in and out with the restrictions. I've got to tip my hat to Dana White and team. I know he's coming under scrutiny now about this full stadium for Jacksonville. I think they've done fantastic with the cards.
In regards to quickly back to Jacksonville, some sport organisation in this year has to pull the trigger
and do it and just say, we'll be the benchmark. This is how you do it. Yeah, that's a great point.
They were the benchmark last year through the pandemic, and so with WWE though, they still were going as well.
AEW in the wrestling. I don't want to make it about wrestling, but
it's fine.
AEW ran from Daly's place right the way through. And then they were just getting, they've had like however many hundreds of people in there, but it holds like 5,000. But everyone was spaced. And then, they did stuff in the stadium as well. They did the event in there.
They'll work it out.
Yeah. They must know. They must have enough information to know that they can run it at full capacity.
Of course they can.
But it's always going to come with negativity because that's just the way people are wired at the moment.
But they'll still watch it though.
Yeah.
They'll still want a bloody ticket.
I want to get on to... We've covered boxing in the feature segment for the last couple of weeks. So it's time to have some MMA, some UFC. And Chris, I left it to you. I gave you the question. I said, pick something for the feature. And you said, can I pick my favourite submission in a fight and my favourite finish? And I was like, yeah. So, it's your turn. Because we've had boxing the last couple of weeks. It's like, let's have UFC for the weekly feature on Big Fight Weekly.
Well, I'll bash these out so we can get to the comments. I'm sure there's people who want us to read the comments.
We've had a few comments.
So I'll go my first one, which is a submission, which was Korean Zombie versus Leonard Garcia. The fight was in March the 26th, 2011. And he won it by a twister, as you can see there. And that was the first ever in UFC history that anyone used a twister, let alone finished a fighter with a twister.
When was this? Was this 2011? I'm looking at the gear. I'm just looking at all the gear and what they were wearing, mate. You know what I'm like with dates and years and stuff. I'm weird, mate.
2011, yeah.
I thought it was just by looking at it.
Yeah.
Sorry. Carry on, mate. I'm jumping in.
No. Say what you need to say. This is before Reebok came in and ruined it because I liked when they had their own sponsors.
It was so much better. Not to come away from the fight and the finish, but I loved having all the different brands of fight wear, and it was good for companies. Reebok, it's just been streamlined.
We'll see what Venom bring.
Venom have got to do it differently. It's just too corporate. It all looks the same. They just need to give the fighters a specific style. But going back to your favourite submission of all time.
Well, see, these two fought on WEC in 2010, and you can find both fights on YouTube. Their first fight was a barn burner, and they just went for strikes, and it was hell, but it was a really good hell. That went into a split decision that Leonard Garcia won. So obviously the making when they had this fight is obviously want to try and recreate the buzz of their first fight, but obviously. The Korean Zombie had a different idea, but that twister was amazing. And you know me how much I love my jiu-jitsu, and to see that in action, absolutely worldy. And don't forget, after this, he won 2 fights. One was against Dustin Poirier, and then fought Jose Aldo for the title. Did Chan Sung Young.
He wanted to top what he did in the WC, didn't he? He was like, right, and then as you say, that's like an iconic submission right there, as we've seen in the graphic.
Massively. Bryce Mitchell, and I think it was last year, has won with a twister now, so he's not he's in that group now.
He didn't set the trend though, mate, did he? Chan Sung Young did it first, which is, if you can do anything like that, if you can bring a manoeuvre in that hasn't been done before, more power to you, because they're so well versed now. If you can do something different, stand out, that's incredible, man. But I think go on to your favourite finish of all time now. I think that's perfect.
This was a hard one because I feel how long I've been watching UFC for and seen so many knockouts, TKOs. I went with this one, and it was Anderson Silva versus Vital Belfort. Because, again, like the twister, this was never done in a UFC before. And it's just how Anderson Silva pulled this one out of the bag with ease, just staring at Belfort's feet and then just looked up very quickly and then just dropped that front kick to the face and completely obliterated Belfort. It was, well, if you remember it, Joe Rogan went flipping crazy on the commentary, didn't he? This, funny enough, happened in February 2011. So just think,
it's quite the year. It's quite the year. But do you know what? It's making me feel old. You recalling all this from 10 years ago.
Old.
You were up for every card at this point as well. You'd been watching it live every night without fail.
That was a sick finish, and you know what I mean. You're like the Twister, but this one again was fresh and new. No one ever done it. They've done it in other organisations, but I'm strictly saying
within the confines of the UFC umbrella. Absolutely. I remember it. Nothing. It's just iconic. Because he was such a hybrid, you're always looking for something. Anderson Silva's do something different, weren't you? You know, but you just didn't know when something was going to happen, and it's just, as you say, Joe Rogan just going absolutely ballistic on commentary. It's just like
kick to the face.
It's just like he's put him out. It's like, oh my god, he's like a fan, isn't he? At times, Joe Rogan, as much as he's there to do his job on commentary, it's just like, mate, just iconic moments, man. Iconic moment.
Insane. You know what I mean? Anderson Silva at that point was at his highest.
No one could. He was at the top end, man.
Pinnacle. He was at the
higher echelon of elite. He was just elite, and then the downturn then from 2013 onwards, where it was his own fault. It was his own fault. He would have beaten Weidman. I know I've said about this. I say about it most weeks like that. He allowed that to happen. Come on, hit me. It's like, what are you doing?
Well, doing all that, and he
and you know, it's. I think he's had too many fights after. I know he's trying to make stars out the new guys, and they love him, and he's a legend. But yeah, it knocked his record, which I don't like. He didn't.
It wasn't just that though. It was the drugs and the failed.
Yeah.
As well, that really lukewarmed a lot. But hey, get the comments in.
I think it's perfect time to get the comments in. I did say we'd discuss and see what you've been saying. So yeah, we'll get Rich, Mr. Producer, to get the comments up if he can.
Nobody wants to talk to us, Stewart.
I know Frankie's been on. So he's been discussing about. He enjoys the show. Yeah, it's great. This is going to be a beast match. I'm glad they finally signed off on it. Yeah, so he's happy with that. Joshua is going to win unless Fury finds a way to cheat again. LOL joke. I don't think he cheated. He was knocked down twice, but he had 10 rounds. And I know, obviously, your knockdowns, you get big points. You know, you could be 10-8 rounds, but he bossed it for the other 10. And then he made him look. He went into his game and started slapping him around and using power punching in the second fight. But yeah, we're just proud. We're at the top of the heavyweight division. I was sick of watching the Klitschko's all them years. Fury to beat AJ. A lot of people are saying that Rambo. Good to have Rambo in the comments again. He was on last week. Yeah, I'm in full agreement though. I think AJ's had that loss to a lesser known person, which he was expected to lose to. Fury's got better as he's gone along as well.
Yeah,
he's improved so much. Like, you know, I go back to when he fought Steve Cunningham at MSG in 2013, and you know he got put down. Who's getting TV for the Al Fury fight? Being that BT Sport have Fury and Sky have AJ, and then next question is how much. They might have to put it out on both platforms. They're gonna have to. They're gonna have to come to an agreement because it'll do. Yeah, one broadcaster to another. They're gonna want it on their own so they get all the revenue. But I think they're gonna have to dual broadcast. And they've never done that. They've never done that. I mean, Fury against Klitschko in 2015, that went over to Sky Sports, I remember. You know, he was on there. He was on Box Nation for years. I love the show, honestly. I'm not a big boxing guy, but I love watching you guys because you guys help me know a lot about certain fighters. Frankie, you do well with your show as well, man. Honest to God, Frankie C Sports, every week he covers a tapestry of American sports, does Frankie. So yeah, I love watching your shows all because you've got so much knowledge about so many different sports. Fury's going to destroy AJ. That seems to be the theme of things at the moment. Although my friend Oliver Regis, who goes down to see AJ train, maybe not at the moment because of the pandemic, he's good friends with AJ. He is team AJ. He thinks Anthony Joshua is going to beat him because AJ's his boy. So yeah. Where is the fight taking place? Brett, we don't know that at the moment. I think that's going to be the terms that they're going to have to agree with Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn, Mr. Eddie Hearn. I'd like it to be at Wembley because at least they can do it and we can get maybe 30, 40,000 into an 80, 90,000 stadium. But that'll be interesting. The boss man, one of the boss men at Powered 4 there, John Scott, watches us every week. Cheers, John. Appreciate the comments there, man. Yeah, it's been good. I've enjoyed it, Chris, again. And I think perfectly to surmise where the fans, the followers, the listeners, the viewers can watch and find you.
They can watch what they're watching, Stu.
Watch you.
Okay. They can find me on Twitter at Van Hume. They can find me on Instagram at VanHume86. You can also find me on our Powered for Big Fight Weekly page on Facebook. Interact with me. I'm always posting fights and different sort of comments from around MMA in the page. So feel free to comment and then we can have a good debate.
It's always good. And yes, before we go, as you can see on the screen there, Doug Williams has come out of retirement. And the good people at Powered 4 TV have got the fight against Lance Storm, the matchup at 1PW from 2007. Our good friend Mike Angus said he was at that show as well. They've got that coming up right after us on Facebook, the full match. And it's great to have a wrestling legend in Doug Williams back on the scene. Did so much for UK wrestling years ago. FWA with Johnny Storm, Jody Fleisch, they really, really set the tone. And we had a fantastic scene. And then it led to all the great stuff that's come since. And they've influenced so many guys. So it's good to have Doug back. And Lance Storm, so well respected within the business. His training school, he's training some of the best I know up in Canada. A lot of good stuff, a lot of praise for Lance and what he's doing for the business now since he's retired. So yeah, all good, man. So yes, thank you to Rich and John. Thank you to Rich for ploughing in the graphics for us today. Saves me clicking a mouse. He's got it all orderly. He's got us doing that. So yeah, cheers to Rich. Thank you, John, for watching. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And we'll see you next week for episode 5.
Bye.
There's one man with potentially a better winning record than Cara Noir. What? He's cashing in. Cara Noir does not look happy, does not look comfortable right now. For the first time in his title reign, I think Cara Noir feels like he is facing a legitimate threat right now. Sammy Smooth is ready for this.
Very ready. He's encouraging him to ring the bell. And there is the bell.
Cara Noir looks... TJ, I don't think I've ever seen Cara Noir look this uncomfortable in the ring before. Oh! He refused to say he was ready to... Oh, yeah, now he's ready.
Now ring the bell.
Now he's ready.
Of course.